$48,000. The price of Bitcoin might look steep, but in the past, breakouts have led to more gains. Scott Bauer, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, joining us this afternoon to talk some crypto and its connection to the market. Scott, do you look at this as a price to be weary and wary of right now, or do you follow that past and say a breakout's a breakout, get ready for another big run?
I mean, this is a breakout with almost like we haven't seen, Oliver. And I know we've kind of said that along the way over the last couple years, but this one now is totally on the heels of not only big corporations, taking this to task, like what we've seen earlier in the year with PayPal and Square. But now you've got Elon Musk behind this. And now you've got just the absolute ultimate amount of FOMO in the cryptocurrency space. I'm not saying that this can't go higher, okay? And I'm not saying it also can't go down to 20,000. But there's more to it right now than just its usage, its store of value, and its scarcity, because we are getting at a point right now where there's only about 20% of total Bitcoin left to mine and left to be out there in circulation.
So Scott, walk me through kind of the way you approach this then. Is it from a trading perspective, you just stand aside? Do you get exposure to the upside with protection and hedging in case of a drop, or do you go the opposite and fade it? Is there a way to approach it right now that you think seems reasonable?
However anyone approaches it, whether it's from the bullish or bearish side, it is one of the riskier trades that we've seen recently, and I'd even call it riskier than what we saw with GameStop, AMC, that whole genre of trading that we saw, because there were more derivatives you could trade with those. With Bitcoin, there are options out there, but you're pretty much held to just trading the futures on it unless you want to trade a company like a MicroStrategy or something like that out there. So it is extremely volatile. It is extremely risky. If anything, I would be leaning towards the bearish side here. And people are calling for the $50,000 breakout and $60,000. And yes, that may happen, but I'd be leaning towards the bearish side. I think what Elon is looking for, Oliver, is he wants one Bitcoin to buy a Tesla Model S. And he's going to call it a day. Right.
We're close. We're pretty much there.
Yeah,
Depends how souped up you want your Model S, I guess. There is, Scott, to the point here about erring on the side of caution. There is a Wild West kind of mentality that's back in crypto, right? I mean, this is not just Bitcoin. Far from it. Ethereum has been going wild. We've seen, of course, Dogecoin, the joke, literally a joke, worth billions of dollars now. Scott, I mean, is it hard for the Bitcoin kind of fundamental case to be taken seriously with these other things happening around it?
I wouldn't say it's hard to take it seriously, because if you look at the entire macro environment, what's going on with fiscal and monetary stimulus and expectations of rising inflation, right? They're pushing all commodities up, and Bitcoin and crypto is somewhat being lumped into that space right now. So there's a lot of tailwinds, not just for Bitcoin, but the entire crypto space. And when you look at some of the altcoins, and I'm not even talking about Ethereum, which has obviously made a huge run up, and a lot of that on the heels perhaps of the CME launching Ethereum futures yesterday. But some of these altcoins, people are looking at it as, okay, I can't afford to buy a Bitcoin. I can't afford to buy an Ethereum, but I got to get in the game. So they're buying some of these cheaper coins here. However, the entire macro kind of, if you will, overhang with, the stimulus coming up and potential inflation does give a lot of tailwinds to the space.
Yeah. All right. So the macro underlying themes can be construed as still being, positive for that Bitcoin narrative. Scott, the one that I'm looking for is its performance in an equity downturn. Of course, we haven't gotten one, so we don't really know, right? I want to know if Bitcoin can do something different than stocks in a major move to the downside. We just haven't had that. What do you think about that? Should that be an important moment to see if there's something different happening, or if it's just still a risk asset?
It is important. It won't be a defining moment. I mean, just, take a look at gold, which is, obviously the tried and true, standard of value, this, that, the other. Gold is, when we've seen some risk off recently, and not over the last couple of days, but when we've seen some risk off over the last month, 2 months, gold has not rallied. It will be interesting to see what happens with Bitcoin here if we do get a risk off environment, if we do get a market sell-off. My guess is maybe it puts a little weight on it. But again, until this stimulus, until this potential inflationary, kind of environment that we're in really subsides, that is going to be, I'm not going to call it a backstop, but again, that is going to provide some sail in the winds, or winds in the sail of Bitcoin here.
Okay, so but generally speaking, if I told you stocks were going to be down 5% next week, you would want to be short Bitcoin?
I'd be short it.
Okay.
Yep. I'd be short it.
What about for gold, Scott, just to come back to that real quickly? It couldn't look more different than the Bitcoin chart. It looks totally miserable still.
Totally miserable. And now the rallies are being met with sales.
Yep.
Over the last 6 months, 6 to 9 months, every sell-off was met with buyers. Now it's kind of the opposite here. So I think we will get to some area of supply and demand and some equilibrium here. But right now, I'd still say that the headwinds, that the sale of any rally is really, in the forefront of the gold market right now. That's going to turn around at some point, but I don't see it happening in the near future here.
Okay. All right, Scott Bauer, thanks for the thoughts. Always a good conversation. Commodities today, a little bit lackluster. Bitcoin clearly the shining star, up a huge 8%. Thank you, Scott, CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, for the thoughts on how to trade this.